Hi everyone and welcome back. Mindy with Mindy Egan Design, and today I'm going to be showing you how I created this card using the Hexagon stamp set from Kathy Zilski or CZ Design. This stamp set was part of the Simon Says Stamp Sending Sunshine release. I'm normally not into the geometric shapes, but you can only watch so many of Laura Basson's videos before you cave and decide to give it a try. So I thought this would look really awesome using the Wreath Builder stencil from Gina Designs. So you can see there I was giving you a glimpse of the stamp set. I will bring it back and show you it again later in the video. It has a lot of great sentiments on here. And I'm going to be using some Gina K inks to create my rainbow hexagon. So I'm starting out with this smaller hexagon solid stamped image. I'm using that Wreath Builder stencil that I have lined up in my MISTI, and I cut my cardstock to 4 by 4. So my ending card size is going to be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I started out with one corner, lining it up in that stencil and stamping that hexagon in the red hot ink. Then I turned it just a quarter turn, matching my corners of my cardstock into the stencil, and I stamped that with Passionate Pink. So I'll go around continuing this pattern throughout the entire part of this card. So I'm just continuing doing that quarter of a turn. I'm using the magnet to hold that in place because I don't trust myself and I don't want it to move. This next color is the Sweet Mango. And so I just inked that up, stamped it once, and rotated my cardstock that quarter turn. So now I'm going to come in with Wild Dandelion, which is a really nice bright yellow. And one thing about these inks is once they're stamped, they set back and have such beautiful, vibrant colors. And since I already broke in this stamp set, I only had to stamp them once. And now I'm coming in with the Lucky Clover. Rotate that again. And now I'm going to come in with the Blue Lagoon. And I gotta tell you that while I was doing this, my craft space is in my bedroom, and my son likes to come in there and hang out in the room, which isn't always a great idea. And he happened to do that while I was creating this video. So this color I just stamped with Sea Glass. He was coming in, he was doing some stuff behind me. It was distracting me, and I couldn't remember what color ink I grabbed. I wasn't paying attention. So here I grabbed the Sea Glass again. I didn't mean to, and I should have really looked at my card. I was just kind of in a mode. I was turning my cardstock, looked, shoot. I wanted to do the Wild Wisteria. So heck with it. I'm not starting over. I grabbed the Wild Wisteria. I'm going to ink right on top of that Sea Glass. And I still really like how this came out. The Wild Wisteria, once everything dried, it did dry to kind of a purplish color. So, and I did stamp it twice just to really get that on there, but it covered it up nice. So that still worked out, even though there was a slight distraction in the background. So I just have this nice, beautiful rainbow of hexagon shapes in that hexagon wreath. So I thought that was a really cool way to do that. Now I'm going to come in, since I have some MISTI tools out, I'm using the mini MISTI for this. Here's that hexagon stamp set. Great sentiments on here. I'm deciding to do some heat embossing. So I used some black cardstock, prepped that with my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to use Hex Yeah. So I'm just going to lay that down on the cardstock and pick that up with my MISTI Door, and I'll go ahead and ink this in Simon Says Stamp Clear ink. It's a nice sticky ink that's great for embossing. So I'll get that down, just giving it a nice push. And since I want to heat emboss another little sentiment, I'm going to leave that there for now, and I'm grabbing You Crushed It. I'm noticing we have more graduation cards and parties to go to, so I needed more cards. So I thought this would be great. So I'm grabbing my Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder, sprinkling that on since this ink does stay sticky for a little bit, and tapping that off. And off camera, I take it and I really give it a good wrap on my table to make sure I'm getting any excess off. Another note, do not have a fan on when you have embossing powder on your table. It doesn't work well. The embossing powder really wanted to fly. So I'm just going to go ahead and heat that up with my heat tool, get that embossing powder nice and melted. So this is really going to pop off of that black cardstock. And also with Kathy's stamps, she has some coordinating dies. And I thought this was really neat to have Hex Yeah cut out with those coordinating dies. So I'm just lining that up and attaching that with this Post-it tape. The Post-it tape is just a really nice tacky tape that doesn't rip my cardstock when it comes out. And so here I have those cut out, and you can see here perfectly lined up, came out great. Love how that looked. And now I'm going to just take this You Crushed It, and I'm going to trim it down into a really tiny strip so that I can adhere this onto my card. And I usually use a Swiffer cloth to wipe off any excess powder from my anti-static powder bag. I'm also noticing with my trimmer I need to switch my blade out. So I did have some kind of straggly ends on my black cardstock, and I just took my fingernails and my fingertips and rubbed that down until I can get my blade changed out. So just another little tip, I guess. So now I'm just kind of getting an idea how I want my card to go. I'm using some black cardstock that's measured 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and that's going to be my card base. And just getting a good idea where I want this to line up, how I'm going to have it go. And I decided I wanted to have a little bit of dimension. So I did cut some craft foam down just short of what my panel is. So my panel is 4 by 4, so I trimmed this down to about maybe 3 3/4. And then I'm using some double-sided tape that I'm going to adhere this to my card. And what seemed to work really well for me is I'm going to take my panel, flip it upside down, and then I'm going to put my craft foam on. That just really helped me line up, make sure I didn't have any edges sticking out. And this double-sided tape is really going to have a nice good stick to it. So once you put it down, make sure that's where you want it to go. And then I can remove that backing and apply it to my black cardstock base. I just kind of grabbed a white piece of cardstock there so I could see my lines, because that black craft mat that I used was kind of confusing me a little bit. So I'm just giving that a nice good push, and I have my card panel ready. So now I can get my sentiments on here. So this is a really easy card to create. Didn't take a lot of time, maybe about 20 minutes. The wreath building part was probably the longest part of it all. So I'm using Gina K Connect glue to adhere these small words onto my card, and I'm using the tweezers so that way I'm not getting my fingertips in the way, and I can line that up. And now I want to add a little bit of adhesive behind that strip, and I don't have any really tiny strips, so I'm taking my foam tape and I'm just cutting down into a tiny strip to fit my small sentiment there. And this seemed to really work out great. And then I didn't have to go and worry about buying any special type of foam adhesive. And I can line that up under my Hex Yeah sentiment. You crushed it. Awesome. Always love Kathy's style. And now I decided I wanted to add some embellishments. And I don't know about you guys, but I really have a hard time lining up where sequins or jewels are going to go. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. I always hear of odd numbers. So I was kind of playing around. You can see I'm pushing them back and forth. What's eye-catching? And as I was moving them around, they kind of ended up in between the hexagons. And I was like, well, that looks kind of cool. So I'm taking these gorgeous pearl jewels from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to put those in between all of my hexagons. I ended up really liking that idea, so I'm glad that they kind of fell into place like a puzzle. And then I'm using the Gina K Connect glue again and my jewel picker to attach those. So I hope you enjoyed this card and this video. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. You can also click the little bell, and that way you'll get notified of any new videos that I post. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll have all of the supplies listed down below in the video description and also on my blog. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you in the next video.